Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans, good evening to you guys. I've got a fun video today, one that may be a little controversial because it's a kind of a fresh sting from this offseason, what happened with our former starting running back in Melvin Gordon. This video is going to be, I'm going to title it, let's say, why losing Melvin Gordon will ultimately help the Chargers, okay? This is going to be kind of a one-on-one video with you guys, just kind of talking, showing you a little bit of statage and stuff like that. I want to get you guys' opinions on the Chargers running game this upcoming season. I think it's going to be pretty deadly, and I think the absence of Melvin Gordon, you know, it's hard, it's tough to say that, you know, taking away a player like Melvin Gordon would help our offense, but I think just because of the personnel that we have, his replacement in Austin Ekeler, and then the surrounding running backs that we've got on the roster right now, I think it's safe to say that we might even be better on the ground this year. So before we get into this video, if you guys like these kinds of videos, hit us up with a like and sub. This small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification help me out a lot. We're over 15,000 subs and continuing to grow. So guys, thank you so much for your continued support. Let's get into this video. Let's talk a little bit about Melvin Gordon, okay? Before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I will say that I don't want there to be an impression that I do not like Melvin Gordon as a person or as a player, okay? I am irked that he went to the Denver Broncos this past offseason. I thought that, you know, sitting out was a very, very bad idea. A lot of people say it even derailed our season before it even began, and we had to shift a lot of stuff, and that's ultimately a big factor into why we went 5-11 last year. So there's a lot of Chargers fans out there that are very irked with Melvin Gordon. Y'all have a pretty good reason to be so. But at the same time, Melvin Gordon himself is a pretty decent player, and we need to acknowledge that, especially now that he's a part of the team of a division rival that we have to worry about twice a year, okay? Now, I will say this, though. Melvin Gordon, a decent player, but I also think in terms of being a top performer, he was a product of our offense a little bit. You know, Coach Lynn, he wanted to make sure that our running game became more consistent. He's a kind of a run-first kind of coach. You know, being a running back himself with the Denver Broncos, you know, back in the twilight of his career, in the beginning of his career, he wanted to make sure that the Chargers' run game would be consistent. And I think he accomplished that with Melvin Gordon. You guys remember Melvin Gordon's rookie year? My goodness, was that terrible. We actually have his statage down here. You know, 641 yards. He was pretty much a full-time starter almost the entire season. No touchdowns his rookie year. And I'm pretty proud of what Anthony Lynn was able to do with Melvin Gordon, transforming, you know, a player like that into a featured running back for the Chargers. So I think the potential for Melvin Gordon being a good player is still there. We kind of know his ceiling. You know, 2018, pretty decent. You're at 2017, especially, you know, 1,000 yards on the ground. He started getting, you know, involved in the receiving game as well. 476 receiving yards, a combined 12 touchdowns. That's great, man. Good for Melvin Gordon. But at the same time, you look at Melvin Gordon, you know, outside of those big years. I think there was a couple of good years for Melvin Gordon. Everything else was kind of average. I think this last season's a very, very good indicator of what his floor might be, which isn't very high at running back. You see he has 12 games, average of 6. Let's see, rushing for 162 attempts, 612 yards, 3.8 yards average, and 8 touchdowns. And that touchdown number, funny enough, when I was editing that compilation video, the trailer for the 2020 season for the Chargers, you guys remember that on the channel a couple weeks ago, I was looking for Chargers touchdowns from this last year, and I noticed watching tape that the Chargers would drive down the field Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Austin Ekeler a lot too. A lot of Austin Ekeler taking it down the field, and then the touchdown getting vultured by Melvin Gordon. And that's not that being, you know, a vulture is a bad thing in the NFL. You need to score points, but at the same time, you know, he was kind of the beneficiary of us driving down the field and then punching it in the last second. It's because he's a bigger running back, 6'1", pretty decently heavy, 215 pounds. You know, he was definitely our kind of power back in that situation when we wanted to score in like third and short, if that makes sense. So we're on the goal line, I should say. So Melvin Gordon was utilized in a very specific way for the Chargers, especially last season. He continued to grow in the passing game as far as his receptions and, you know, yards after the catch. Decent running back. But I also think these numbers over here from last season is a heavy indicator of why we didn't re-sign him. 612 yards in 12 games, not great. 3.8 yards per, like on average, is or yards per attempt is not great either. That's pretty low for someone who wanted to get paid as much as he did. All right, and again, the 8 touchdowns, you know, there was a few of them where he did break out. You know, it was a very well-earned touchdown by Melvin Gordon, but I would say a lot of them were actually the product of our offense driving down the field and him kind of punching it in at the last second, okay? So Melvin Gordon is now gone, all right? That's who we had last year. We were very adamant about using Melvin Gordon last year. He's no longer on the team. Enter Austin Ekeler. new running back, breakout candidate for last season, very huge breakout player for last season, and he is a different kind of running back from Melvin Gordon. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons this is a good thing that Melvin Gordon moved on from the Chargers. I think Austin Ekeler ultimately for our offense and the way that we're transitioning into the 2020 season is a better running back by far. And I think there's a couple of ways you could say that. I think he's a better running back as far as being a dynamic playmaker. I do think he's a better running back as far as his speed. I think he's a better running back, as far as how many times you can utilize him, how many ways you can utilize him. The only thing I think Melvin Gordon had on Austin Ekeler was a bit of size, weight, and the ability to be utilized maybe as a power back. Those short yardage situations. So I don't know, man. I do like Austin Ekeler quite a bit. You can utilize him as, your straightforward, running down the field running back, and you can also utilize him as a third down kind of running back in the receiving game. So he's kind of a dual threat. And you guys saw this with Austin Ekeler last season. The guy, if he was on your fantasy team, forget about it. you were out there winning games on the back of Austin Ekeler several weeks in a row. So we take a look at Austin Ekeler last season, 132 yards, 16 games, of course, 557 yards. So we need to get that number up a little bit, but that's really, just half of his game right there. 4.2 yards, per attempt, which is pretty nice. 3 touchdowns on the ground. We need to get that number up again a little bit. But really, the 92 receptions for almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, yards per reception at 10.8 is absolutely astounding. And some people don't understand how astounding that is. I've seen in my comment section people say that Austin Ekeler is the most underrated player in the entirety of the NFL. You know what? I can't argue against that, man. What Austin Ekeler did last season is astounding. And what's great is that we did just re-sign him. He's definitely not too old, and at the same time, we have a lot of time to keep continuing develop Austin Ekeler. He's coming into the prime of his career. So there's a lot to look forward to with Austin Ekeler. Taking a look at his season last year, man, absolutely astounding. The things that we need to get up just a little bit, again, are the rushing yards, maybe the rushing touchdowns, but it's not essential to the game of Austin Ekeler. Now, when people ask me, how good can Austin Ekeler be, there is a response that I've been kind of coming at people with. I think, honestly, Austin Ekeler, you can start comparing him to this man right here, Christian McCaffrey. Now, obviously, Christian McCaffrey is a very, very, very special running back, and it's going to be really hard-pressed for anybody to beat him out as far as, being a better running back in general. But you take a look at his career, I will say in 2018. All right. So Christian McCaffrey has been, improving every single year. Last year being absolutely insane. But I think the potential, the ceiling for Austin Ekeler, who is on our team right now at starter with the absence of Melvin Gordon, has the potential of reaching a 1,000-yard season in the range of 5 to 7 touchdowns, and in the reception range of 100 receptions and a close to 900 to 1,000 yards. Okay, and the 6 touchdowns through the air is pretty impressive too for McCaffrey. I think honestly, Austin Ekeler is better through the air. Just a few less receptions, but more yards and more touchdowns for Austin Ekeler. So really, if I were to project the ceiling for Austin Ekeler, I would say this. Let's put this back in here, right? Okay, so in comparison to last year, I think we can get his rushing average back up because, again, no more Melvin Gordon. Justin Jackson's more of a change of pace back. I'm hoping to see the yardage for Austin Ekeler reach somewhere between, I would say, 700 and 800 yards. I think somewhere between there is pretty fair to say. He has a lot more game to give, and I think we can get that touchdown number up to maybe 5 or 6. Okay, I think that's pretty fair. As far as receiving, I just want to see him do again what he did last year, guys. So you take a look at the receptions at 92 for almost 1,000 yards. That is incredible. Again, take a look at Christian McCaffrey from last season. Receptions 116 for 105 yards, right? And only 4 touchdowns through the air for Christian McCaffrey. I think you can make the argument, based on receptions, yardage, and touchdowns, that Austin Ekeler is better through the air than Christian McCaffrey. So if we can get his ground game to improve just a little bit, my God, imagine what we have in Austin Ekeler. Okay, and then some people ask me, Director, what are we going to do on those those power back situations? We're going to need a bruiser out there, to go in between the tackles. We addressed that this offseason too. And that's going to be through this guy, Joshua Kelly. Okay, and Joshua Kelly, very so much a bruiser kind of running back. I think he's basically our replacement for Melvin Gordon on the cheap. We're asking Melvin Gordon to do very similar things to what we're going to be asking Joshua Kelly to do, and I think he can actually have a better result than Melvin Gordon in those situations. Melvin Gordon, 3.8 yards on average is not super great, dude. You take a look at Joshua Kelly at UCLA, his average here on the ground, being 4.6, which was absolutely incredible. He went for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns, I should say. Not much of a receiving back, but that's why we have Austin Ekeler. This is great, man. This can replace Melvin Gordon easily. So basically what we're doing is we're shifting the focus of our running game from Melvin Gordon, we'll say, 1A to Austin Ekeler 1B, and we're switching that around. Now, Melvin Gordon's out. We have Austin Ekeler 1A, Justin Jackson 1B, and in those situations where we need a running back like Melvin Gordon, we've got Joshua Kelly at 1C, and I think every single one of these running backs has a job to do. Taking a look at Justin Jackson himself, too, a very good change of pace back. We've seen a couple of games where he kind of, you could say he kind of broke out a little bit. With more snaps and more carries, he could definitely impress us. And I've been super high on Justin Jackson as far as, the second running back on our team for a very, very long time. So he's going to be adopting that role very similar to Austin Ekeler last year. Not exactly the same, because he's definitely going to be utilized a little bit different, but he's going to be having, more of a share on the field as far as touches and snaps goes. And I think that we're about to see, again, not a breakout, but at the same time, we're all going to be very impressed with what we see in Justin Jackson this year. And I'm very, very confident in saying that. So again, Austin Ekeler, I think, is going to have a fantastic year in 2020, being our running back one. I want to see the rushing yards go up just a little bit, the touchdowns in the ground go up just a little bit, and then try and stay around the same as far as his receptions and his production through the air. And I think, guys, you combine all those factors with the case that we now have a mobile quarterback. You got to think about that too, guys. I think his receptions and his yards through the air might even go up too, because you're taking a look at a guy like Tyrod Taylor's going to be scrambling out of the pocket quite a bit, looking for a safety valve out there in Austin Ekeler. He might see more receptions, and you guys have seen what Austin Ekeler can do after the catch. Absolutely insane. Very few players in the NFL can do what Austin Ekeler does. And again, I think he might be a better, receiving back than even Christian McCaffrey, just based on his numbers last year and what my eyes show me on the field. Christian McCaffrey definitely better on the ground, but Austin Ekeler can still improve in that matter. So what do you guys think in the comment section below? What do you think about Austin Ekeler? How is his season going to do next season? And do you think that the Chargers may be better without Melvin Gordon this upcoming season, now that we can unleash this beast into the NFL known as Austin Ekeler? Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit us up with a like and sub, dude. So excited to hear what your guys' opinions are on Austin Ekeler. I'm so excited to see him produce in the 2020 season as our running back one. I think I hyped myself up pretty good right now. I want to go pick myself up an Austin Ekeler jersey here soon, guys. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Hit that like and sub. As always, guys, stay frosty and bolt up. Let's go, Austin Ekeler.